Fake, be who you wanna be, cause what makes you unique is your identity. It's what makes up you and me. It's what makes up you and me. It's what makes up you and me. It's your identity. It's your identity. Yeah. It's what makes up you and me. It's what makes up you and me. It's your identity, it's your identity. It's what makes up you and me. It's what makes up you and me. It's what makes up you and me. It's your identity, it's your identity. It's what makes up you and me. It's what makes up you and me. It's what makes up you and me. It's your identity, it's your identity.
Hello, you all. Hello, 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 and welcome to another segment of Peeling Back the Layers with the Other Woman magazine. I am excited about tonight. We have our guest author, Wendy Shipman, who has been on with us before. Actually, she's been on a couple of times. She and her husband were on another show sharing about marriage and depression. So she is back tonight with some good information. So if you're watching, please share this, share it with friends who may be showing symptoms of depression, who may not have a diagnosis of depression, but are showing signs or symptoms. Mental health, mental illness is nothing to play with. It's real, but for some reason, it's not discussed openly enough. It's considered sometimes a taboo topic, but of course, with the Other Woman magazine, no topic is taboo. So before we get into that and bring her on, I want to share the Other Woman magazine is now digital and in color. Digital and in color. And we're excited about it. And if you are a business owner and would like to advertise, there's something special about the digital part. In the digital, if you have a website, the website listed, viewers will be able to click on the link and go directly to your website. Yes, if they purchase the digital copy and you're an advertiser, your website, the link to your page will be a click away from the reader. And this is in different cities, different states. It's all over the place. And the digital part allowed us to go reach the masses. So we're excited. Still available in print, but it is also digital. If you would like to submit an article to the Other Woman magazine, you are more than welcome to. I am going to place the website, theotherwomanmagazine.com, and just find the submit an article link, click on it, read the guidelines, and please share. If you have a story that you would like to share with our viewers on our Facebook Live on Peeling Back the Layers, contact me and let me know. I didn't even tell you who I was. My name is Lavender Shedrick Williams. I am the publisher, the owner of Candy Publishing and the publisher and creator of the Other Woman magazine. So without further ado, let me allow Miss Wendy Shipman to come on. She is let me find my notes. She's got plenty to say and plenty of awards behind her name. Let me bring her on first. Okay, hello there, Miss Wendy.
Hi, Miss Williams. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. I was just sharing that you have a lot behind your name, a two-time self-published author and award-winning author, award-winning short film for Best Drama Short, an executive producer, actress, blogger, podcaster, digital creator, wife, mother, um, uh, so much more, so much more. But we're going to get into all of that. And as you continue to collect all of these titles and awards, the fact that you are doing it, living with depression. Um, you also wrote an article, I forgot to mention that. Wendy wrote an article in a previous issue called She is a Depression Survivor. You've always been very transparent. You've always been very open. Um, you're doing TikToks now and videos, sharing your depression and sharing who you are, not just about depression, but I think it's important that people know who you are. You're not depression. You are author Wendy Shipman with all these things that I just shared, but you live with depression. So again, those of you who are watching, who have friends or family members who may be dealing with depression or may have symptoms of depression, please share this with them. And Wendy, let's start with the symptoms. When exactly did you notice or feel like something was just not right with you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it. You being able to, well, I'm being able to talk about this important subject. So I thank you again for allowing me to come on because it's a
Thank
very
you.
important subject to talk about.
It is.
Um, Regarding myself, honestly, I really didn't know I had a problem at the time. Um, it started when I was very young, very, very young. I used to be sad all the time and couldn't really figure out why. Just the feeling of, I guess it stemmed from, the mental abuse that was received when I was much younger, and I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. So it happened a long time ago, but I wasn't diagnosed until I was 27 years old, after the death of my father on the 28th of October, and then
Mm,
the birth of my daughter on the 20. I'm sorry, he passed away on the 27th. She was born on the 28th. And it was just a mixture of bittersweet emotions. Everything
emotions.
came together at once. I wasn't able to attend his funeral, so I didn't get a chance to say that final goodbye.
Mm,
It was just so traumatic at that particular time, and it was a lot to deal with. And it wasn't until it was actually after my FMLA time with the birth of my daughter that someone from HR said that, hey, you're not doing too well.
mm,
And she suggested that I take time off for depression. And I'm like, depression. I could understand the postpartum part, but it was so much more than that. Um, because, dealing with death is one thing, dealing with
right,
the newborn is another, dealing with the fact that I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. It was just all wrapped up into one. And
right.
so it was at that time that, I was diagnosed with clinical depression. And, thinking back, well, hey, if this is what I have now, back then when I was 27, 28 years old, is this what I had when I was much younger? And so
Mm.
you start to think about that kind of thing as you get older and stuff like that. But it happened fairly young. Um,
So Wendy, you said, could that have been what I was feeling when I was younger? So before you lost your father and the birth of your daughter, you were feeling things as a young adult, as a child. You felt
yes,
something.
yes.
What was it? Was it a sadness? What was it?
Well, to be quite transparent with you, it had a lot to do with uh, the emotional, mental aspect dealing with my mother. I, at that particular time, to be honest with you, didn't feel like she loved me.
Mm,
And, um, just having that awkward feeling that she just didn't want me to be there. And that's how I felt. And so that really triggered a lot of emotions in me, especially going into my teenage years.
mm,
And, you know, it got to the point where I actually thought about suicide. Um, but I had somebody praying for me along the way. And so I honestly made a promise to God. And I can't even remember whether I put this in the book, but I made a promise to God. I said, God, if you allow me to at least have one child to uh, carry on my legacy,
mm,
you can do whatever you want with me. Just help me to
mm.
live. Help me to get through this particular time. And he did. He allowed me to have two. He allowed me to have a son and a daughter, and I have a bonus son now. So, I don't know how many religious people are on here. If you're not religious, I apologize, but I'm telling you how I feel. God was the only thing that brought me through everything that I went through at that particular time. So it was by His grace and His mercy that kept me throughout all of
Mhm.
that.
Right, right. So your supervisor or whoever, it was your supervisor that suggested that you take some time off of
Right
work
at that
for the
particular time, she actually worked in HR. So she knew
okay,
she knew all about, family medical leave and, dealing
okay.
with stuff like that. And so,
And she obviously
uh,
knew the symptoms. She knew something.
exactly,
Did you ever
exactly.
think that it might have been postpartum depression? Did you ever equate those two together since you had just had a baby?
Honestly, depression never even crossed my mind because I didn't know what it was. I had no
Okay,
clue. Even
okay.
though I was in my late 20s when I had my children, well, well, yeah, both of my children, it was in my late 20s. I had no clue as to what depression was.
Mm,
Um, Even though when I was much younger, I, displayed the symptoms, I didn't go to the doctor for it because who could I talk to? I didn't have anybody to tell that about the way that I was feeling. And if I did bring it up, I would be told to, shut up or go outside and play or kind of dismissed all of my emotions, all of what I was feeling. So I was never able to get the help that I needed at that particular time.
mhm. What would you tell parents that may have a child who seems a little quiet, not wanting to go outside, not sure, but we can say going outside with your friends, or why are you sitting in the house, or anything similar? Did you experience that from your family or from friends? What's wrong with you, or anything like that? What would you say to parents?
Well, I'm going to tell you, you're able to, I guess it depends on the situation, only because like with me, um, a lot of times I kept it to myself and nobody knew what I was going through because I wouldn't let them. I had already put up a defense mechanism, a wall to protect myself because, if I do say something to someone, they're going to dismiss it.
Mm,
And, you know, why would I bring up something that nobody wants to hear?
Mm-hmm.
My advice to parents is to please, make sure and listen to your teenage son or daughter, nieces or nephews,
Right.
grandchildren. Listen to what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to how they're saying it, because it's very important. There have been so many news articles. You hear about young children, 9, 10 years old, committing suicide. And it's unbelievable to
Yeah.
me. And most of it stems from bullying. Um, I'm not an expert on the bullying part, uh, but I can only imagine how that child could have possibly felt knowing they were bullied at school, but maybe they were scared to even tell their parents about what was going on. Because, we as parents, we're going to defend our children no matter what.
Exactly.
Parents are going to go to that school, this, that, and the other. And that fear of retaliation from that other party is going to make that bullying worse.
Right.
Not saying that
Right.
that's exactly what happens, but I can assume or probably guess that that might be the case. But,
Mm-hmm.
definitely pay attention to the symptoms. If your child is sad all the time, or even crying, or even uh, introverted, they don't go outside anymore. They don't want to hang with their friends anymore, as well as adults. Adults do that as well. Um,
Right. Right.
Children become non-social. They don't want to do anything. They want to probably stay in their room or, play games. They just want to be away from people. And
Mm-hmm.
if you see that and they tell you, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, pay attention to those signs.
Right. Now, and you mentioned adults do those same things. So, bringing it back up to your adulthood, let's talk about the mask. We're going to talk about all these awards that you have and how in the world you manage your depression and you go get through your days of depression and be successful and write and do all the things that you do. But let's talk about the mask. I'm sure you wore a mask. There were days that you probably didn't want to get out of bed, but you had to go to work. Like you said, before it was diagnosed, you didn't know. So tell us about that mask that you wore, or if you still wear it. How do you do it? You're on TikTok. You're a digital creator. How do you do it? Tell us. Let's talk about the mask.
The mask. The mask for me is very easy to wear because
Really?
I've worn it for so long.
Mm,
Um, I was conditioned per se to not show my emotions because if I did, I would get in trouble.
by
So
your parents, or at where are we talking? At work? Get in trouble?
I'm talking about at home. Yes,
Okay.
I'm talking about at home. Um, you know, uh, get yelled at, that type of thing.
Mm,
So I shut myself off. Um, when I was in school, I had, people I talked to, friends. I had one particular friend throughout the entire high school. I mean, I had other friends, but one particular young lady that I always hung out with, and everybody else, I didn't let inside of my low wall because I didn't want. I guess maybe I didn't want to share too much of how I was feeling with others because they wouldn't want to hear that. Being in high school and stuff like that. But
right.
yeah, I learned very early on to have a mask. I kept that mask on for years and years and years.
Mm.
Um, However, the only people that can see my mask are my children and my now husband. My daughter would both my daughter and my son would actually say, "Ma, are you okay? Ma, why are you sad?" I mean, they could actually see it in my face, even though I try to hide it. But I've always been able to wear this mask at work.
Mm.
Um, you know,
That's a lot of energy, isn't it? It's
it's
aren't you
it's
physically
overwhelming.
drained? Yeah.
It's overwhelming. It's tiring um, to hide your
Mm.
feelings all the time. It's like you're trying to hide a person from the outside world, the real person. You're trying to put on this air. It's basically like acting. I was a great actress. I didn't let anybody know. Well, I let a few people know, some of the things that I actually, was going through at that particular time. But for the most part, actressing was one of my hidden talents.
Wow.
And but as we age, we begin to learn better, know better. You know, one thing I can say though is that because of the mask, I didn't, I wasn't an aggressive talker. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
I was always to myself. Um, I was never argumentative. Um, I never showed that side of me because of the fact that I had this mask on and I couldn't let that go because you would really see the
The
inner
real
me,
you. Right.
the real
Right.
me.
Right.
I'm a Pisces, and Pisces are known to be kind of a little rough around the edges sometimes, and I can be that way, especially if it comes to my children and stuff like that. But even with that, I still try to stay hidden behind this mask.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's very tiring. Um, you
With
also
the
asked
mask,
me,
yeah, with
I'm
the
sorry.
mask, Wendy, what do you wish your peers, your coworkers, your friends knew when you look back? What do you wish they knew about you to better, to be a better friend to you or be a better family member?
That's hard to say. And that's because a lot of people have their own stuff to deal with. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Everybody's got something. You're right.
Everybody
You're
has
right.
everybody has something, you know.
Right.
And and at that particular time I thought that my something was not important or
Mm,
as important to even talk about or bring about. But that was my way of thinking. That was the depressed way of thinking. Nobody cares.
mm,
So, but if I really think about it, back then, uh, I don't think it really would have made too much of a difference because I was a little bit too far gone by that time. I mean, you're
okay.
talking about the teenage years versus 30s and 40s.
Right.
Um, so, I am thankful for the friends that I did have at that particular time to help me with what I was going through. But I
Mm,
didn't really let my coworkers know. Um, Well, HR knew because, I had to take time off. Um, and thus, the last time that happened, that was the beginning of the first book. I started writing my first book while I was out on medical leave for depression.
Okay. Did you know you were writing a book, or were you just journaling?
I was just writing. There was no rhyme or reason to it. It was just something to do instead of just kind of sitting there twiddling my thumbs. Because I can't remember how long I was off, maybe 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. Um, However, I just needed that mental time to get myself together. Um, so so that I wouldn't sit in the house and, not do nothing while my mind was going 50 miles an hour. I just picked up a pen and pencil one day and just started writing. Um,
Hmm.
so, that helped. That helped.
That's
That,
therapy.
that was
Writing is
therapy.
therapeutic, right?
Exactly.
Hmm. Did you
Exactly.
ever, speaking of therapy, did you ever have counseling? I can't remember if you ever mentioned, did you ever seek counseling? And when did you decide, if you have, to um, try to get something, medicine, to help you deal with it on a daily basis?
I've had therapists, counselors several times. Um, Even when, I had my first child and my father died. I had a counselor then, went to go see a counselor, and she was the
Mhm.
one who diagnosed me with clinical depression. Um, I had it during my first marriage. Um, I had it after my marriage. Uh, I had it, pretty much throughout my life, back and forth with different counselors.
Mhm.
My thing is that uh, you have to have a counselor, you have to find a counselor that can best benefit you in what you're going through. And there's no harm in asking therapists their viewpoints on certain things because, say, for instance, your belief in God. You know, if you believe in God, do you want a counselor who believes in God as well? Or do you want a counselor who doesn't believe in God? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you have to really pick, um, or I should say, select your counselor wisely so that they can help you.
Mhm.
Um, you know, that kind of has the frame of mind that you have
Mhm.
in
Someone that you
dealing.
mesh with. Someone that
Right,
you mesh with. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And
What prompted you, Wendy? What prompted you to initially seek counseling?
um, I felt like I couldn't breathe.
Really?
I felt like I could barely keep my head above water.
Mm.
I felt like at that particular time, which wasn't that long ago, um, my kids were in school. I think this was actually before my daughter graduated high school. This was back in 2000. Um, Lord, when did she graduate? 2014? I'm so confused with my dates right now. I have so many kids graduating from college
Hello.
and
Yeah.
high school. I think it was back between 2014, 2018. Um, I had a lot of things going on, and I just felt like let me tell you something about depression. Now with me, and I'm only speaking for myself because I can only tell you what Wendy goes through.
Right.
When you're in a state of depression, your mind will tell you you're nothing. You're
Mm.
worthless. Your self-esteem is just, just shot. I mean, it's an awful feeling. Um, and it makes you not want to even uh, continue. And that's where I've been. I've been to the point where I just didn't feel like going on anymore. And that's as transparent as I can get. Um, but when you're in that particular state of mind, you need help. Back then, I could not really admit myself to a facility because I had 2 kids to take care of. Um, so I just basically, uh, along with a couple of counselors, I basically just, you know, prayed my way through it. I couldn't pray a lot because, sometimes when you get so deep down into depression, you can't even pray for yourself. That's how I felt. I didn't know how to pray at that particular time because the pain, the hurt was just so bad. So it was just one of those things. So it was hard. It was hard, but I did the best that I could with what little strength that I had. Getting both kids, in high school, into college, and by the time my son was getting ready to go to college, was when God blessed me with my now husband.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely a different kind of journey for
Mm-hmm.
me back then. Again, some people knew, some people didn't, and that was that. It is what it is. Sometimes you can't really depend on people
Transfer.
anyway,
Right.
but the
Right.
ones that I did tell, they understood.
Um, for those who may be watching, and thank you all for joining us. We're here with the author Wendy Shipman, who is sharing, allowing us to peel back the layers of depression. She is a 2-time self-publishing author, award-winning short film for Best Drama Short, and several other things we're going to get into in a minute. But you mentioned when you're at a certain point that you need to seek help. There are many people walking around with undiagnosed depression that have not sought help and may not even know that they're dealing with depression. And for our culture, especially, I just commend you, Wendy, for being so transparent with it. Depression is real. I have
Very.
friends who have shared with me their feelings of depression, and you feel helpless. You feel helpless. You don't, I mean, you expressed how low you've been that you just don't want to go on. But I love that definition. Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness. That means it's there. It's
All the
always
time.
there all the
Yes.
time. And a
Yes.
loss of interest, more than just a bout of the blues. Depression isn't a weakness, and you can't simply snap out of it.
You
You
cannot.
know, you cannot.
There's
There's
no switch for that.
there's no switch for it. So we talked about the mask. Let's talk about the motivation.
The
Where do you
motivation.
find the motivation to do what you do, Wendy? The motivation let me put up a, someone says that you are their favorite author. I'm going through some
Oh,
comments here. Yes.
thank
Here's
you.
one. Thank you for sharing your very personal story. Thank you all for commenting and watching. There's another. Thank you for sharing your journey with depression.
Let me put my eyes
Um,
on. Thank you, Sandra.
yes. You know what? That's why I continue to have you on, Wendy. There are,
Oh,
even
and
if you're not,
Alexis, my
huh?
daughter, my daughter
That's your
Alexis,
daughter? Okay.
and Robert, thank you, and Sandra,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think I saw Brandy up there earlier, somebody else, but thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yes. And thank you. Thank you for being so transparent. I mean, you're on social media making videos about having depression.
Yes,
Um, you know, you see all the laughter and the fun and the entertainment on social media, but what a amazing platform to share a mental illness that people are afraid to say. You come out and say it. What does mental illness look like? I love the videos that you're making. And for those who don't deal with depression, need to share that, because there's somebody on your page, there's a friend on your social media who may be dealing with that,
absolutely,
that don't, they, you know what I'm saying? They just don't know. So back to the
absolutely.
question, where do you find your motivation? I'm going to put some pictures up of you, because you're just doing it. Tell us about your books. Where did you find the motivation? I love the title of your book, Inside of Me, and you won an award for that book. Tell us
I
about that
did.
book, Inside of Me.
Inside of me, my motivation at that particular time, again, was, I was out on family medical leave because of depression. So I just started writing. And when I showed it to my daughter, the first chapter or two, she read it and she was like, "Well, where's the rest of it?" And I'm like, "Well, it was just something that I was writing at that particular time." And she said, "Mama, you need to go ahead and finish it." And I'm like, okay. So, I just kind of sat back and, thought about different scenarios, what I could say, who could say it, and, that type of thing. But,
Mm-hmm.
it took about a good year and a half, 2 years maybe to finish it, um, which was a blessing in itself to finish. Because sometimes you get writer's block and you don't know what to say. I think I had writer's block for about 6 months. Yeah, it was a long time. It was a long time. But uh, I think my motivation at that particular time was, my daughter encouraging me to finish it. Um, that's really about the only motivation I had at that particular time. Um, I had a lot of things going on at work that kind of led me into that depressive state. Um, so uh, I don't know. I guess maybe I can't even begin to tell you. My
What
daughter is
about
the only
just getting up, Wendy?
huh?
What about those days when you just don't feel like doing anything? You don't feel
Oh,
like getting up. What
there are
what
plenty
what
of there are plenty of those days.
so
Still,
what goes on in your head? What goes on to make you put your feet on the ground, on the floor, and take one step after the other?
to be truthful with you, that I have quite a few things that make me get out of bed every morning. One is the fact that despite all of the stuff that I went through from childhood up until now, God was able to bless me with a wonderful husband.
Mm-hmm.
I have three, children, and I'm blessed to be here.
Mm,
because I think about that negotiation that I had with God back in high school. Lord,
mm-hmm,
just help me to leave at least one legacy, and then you can do whatever you want with me, because I was basically tired of life. And he saw fit to allow me to, have these children and to now have a wonderful husband. And I'm able to wake up every day and be so thankful because I'm happy now with what I
mm,
have versus what I had back then. Um, and I truly believe that I had to go through all of that just to get where I am now. I still have times where, depression gets the best of me. Something can trigger me from being, in a jovial mood and jovial mood. And then as soon as I sit down, I get sad because of something that I think about. It's just that quick sometimes.
mm,
Um, but again, I have been so blessed in the last few years that I'm so thankful to be here.
mm-hmm,
I am
mm-hmm,
thankful and blessed to be here.
mm-hmm. Because as
So
you said earlier, there were some days where you didn't want to be here. You did
yeah,
not want to be here. So
yes,
the fact that you have walked through those dark times and continue to walk through those dark times, it's motivation for those who don't deal with depression. If you can get up dealing with that heaviness and just do the things that you do, what excuse does a person not having depression? And depression is not just a sadness. Let's put the definition back up there. It's not something that you can snap out of. Um, your award-winning short film for best drama short, you an executive producer. I'm going to put up a few more pictures. So tell us what this picture is about.
uh, okay, well, um, my story was featured in a magazine called Young Black Entrepreneur magazine.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I was contacted by Mr. Okiba Jubolu, and I apologize if I mispronounce your last name, sir. But I was contacted by him. He's a native to South Carolina, which is where I'm from as well. But currently I live in Alabama. He contacted me, and he heard about some of the things that I've done. Being part of the community back then, and so he asked if I would do an article, and I said, absolutely, I would love to. I said, absolutely, I would love to, and I appreciate him contacting me. That was fantastic. Um, his assistant was absolutely phenomenal, and thank her as well. Uh, and so that was that was a great highlight to be able to be acknowledged in his magazine. It was great.
Right, right. Tell us about this one.
This right here is a poster of the movie Inside of Me on
Right.
the
Say
very
that. Say that
front.
again. The movie. The movie. Yes. So her book. Quickly. So your book went to the screen.
Not just yet, not just yet, not just yet. Stephanie Green, who is the director, producer, and director of the short film, she's actually from Charleston, South Carolina as well. Um, I think she's from well, she's lived there before, but she did some work for me in the Charleston area. I was contacted. I, I was told to contact her, because I thought that the book could actually be a movie.
Uh-huh.
Funny thing is that when I was writing the movie, writing the book, this young lady, the actress, the lead character, was the first person I thought about to be the lead for the short film. And I'm not exactly sure why Robin, popped into my head at that particular time. It's just something, I don't know. But, like I said, while I was writing, didn't really consider that the book would actually be brought into film. Didn't even consider it at that time that it would, but
Uh-huh.
it did. And I'm like, well, let me go ahead and ask Robin if she would like to be the lead character. And she did. And I am so thankful. Um, all of the characters in the movie are from the Charleston, Summerville area, South Carolina. So it was basically homegrown on there.
Okay, okay.
It was
I love
homegrown on
that.
there, and it was
Okay.
spectacular. It was a great. I was only there for two parts of the shooting, um, but just to see it actually brought to life on film was just phenomenal.
And there you are holding your two books. Give us the title of your books and where they can be found.
The first book is titled "Inside of Me," and it was also the 2020 Christian Indie Award winner in the personal growth category, uh, and it was also a 5-star reader's favorite. Um,
Okay, great. Congratulations on that. That's
thank
a
you.
beautiful achievement.
That book was actually, fictional. The second book is called "I Died So I Could Live,"
Mm,
and it was a personal book based upon personal events in my life. Um, that was a very hard book to write, but believe it or not, it took a shorter time to write it than it did the first one, even though it was much harder.
right.
That second book right there was supposed to be the sequel to the first, but when God tells you to do something, you do it. And I listened to
Right.
him.
Right.
And I listened to him. Um, he told me that I needed to put this second book out, and I obliged. Um, and so that's why that particular book came out second. Um, but I'm very thankful for them. Um, but the second book really depicts stuff that I went through in my lifetime, from childhood up until the present. A lot of things that I dealt with emotionally, physically, mentally, that is in the book. I even have a little disclosure in there, because some things could be triggering to some readers. And so, I wanted to put it out there. Hey, this kind of content is in there. I, be careful.
Okay. And they can get those books wherever online books are sold.
Yes, ma'am. Anywhere. Amazon. You can even go on Target. you know, any online bookstore.
Okay. And that is Inside of Me. And the second one was I died so I could live.
I died so I could live.
I
And
died so
I literally had to die each time
mm.
just so I could live.
Okay, Wendy, in closing, what would you say to those living with depression? Your closing words. What would you say to those living with depression? We've talked about the mask, we've talked about the motivation and your mission, your platform that you're using. Share that first. What is your mission? And close with words to those dealing with depression.
My mission is to educate people on this illness. And that's exactly what it is. It's an illness, just like, high blood pressure, just like diabetes. You wouldn't allow those things to fester without getting help. It's the same thing with your mind. Your mind needs help. Um, and so, I recommend that you go to a doctor, go to, um, counselor, go to a spiritual counselor, go to someone, and do not go through this by yourself. Never go through this by yourself. Uh, check on your loved ones, your children, your grandparents, your parents, your aunts, your uncles. Check on everyone, and especially, believe it or not, check on your men. Men have a lot on their backs. Men tend not to open up as freely as they would a woman. Our men needs to know that we can help them also. They're not alone. So please check on your men as well. And I want to encourage each and every one of you to know the signs. If you don't know the signs, look them up. Google is free. Google, what is depression? What are the signs of depression? It's there. And unfortunately, it won't go away. Please make sure that you check on your loved ones, whether they are sad or whether they're not. You have to check on the happy ones as well, because again, we wear that mask. And sometimes we don't take that mask off until we're at home by ourselves.
I have one final question. Someone is asking, what advice would you give to other writers dealing with depression? But I want to remind those who might just be checking in, tuning in, you didn't know you were writing a book. You were
No,
journaling. You were just writing.
I was just writing.
I love that. Writing is therapeutic, and
It really
people
is.
probably always wonder, why am I always saying journal, document your days. You have a book, now an award-winning book, now going to the screen. So what advice would you give to writers dealing with depression?
I would definitely say start somewhere. Just write. Write what you're feeling at the time. Write about your most favorite moment. Write about why you're feeling the way you're feeling now. Just write. Get that pen and paper and just start writing, because you cannot even imagine really all the things that are going on in your mind until you actually start writing it down. And when you're finished, it's like, wow, was I really thinking about all that? It's amazing how the mind works sometimes, because, there are times when you actually are subconsciously thinking about something, and until you start writing it, you don't realize that you're thinking about it or worrying about it. But yeah, I would definitely start. That's the whole premise of everything, just starting.
Okay, what if they have started, Wendy? What if they are writers dealing with depression? Say they have two books out. They're writing, but they have those days where that mind won't allow them to pick those keys or pick up that pen and paper. You know.
And that does happen. That 6-month writer's block that I was telling you about. With writers, you know, and I tell this not to just writers, but to everybody. It's
Hmm.
okay not to be okay sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, you know, if 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 you can't write, don't worry about it right then and there. Your mind needs to be at peace before you can actually, um, you know, have a sense of, well, I can go ahead and write again. Um, now, when you're saying that you have some writers who are actually depressed, now
Hmm.
are you too depressed to write, or are you just going through depression? I'm not understanding the question behind that. Are you just saying
They're
that
going
they're
living with depression. I'm going to assume they didn't
oh,
say living with
okay,
depression. Yeah.
yeah. You definitely have to be able to find a way to um, get to seek help,
Mhm.
doctor, therapist, counselor, because you cannot go through this alone. Depression is hard enough to deal with, but to deal with it when you're by yourself or while you're alone or while you're not in the presence of other folks can be, very,
Mm.
very hard. Um, but even when you're with someone, if someone is actually there, that can be just as hard. So really, it doesn't matter whether somebody's there or not. You need to be able to um, find out the root cause. What is really actually making you depressed? Because sometimes there are triggers. Sometimes there are actually things that will make you feel like you just can't go on. Um, it's kind of hard to say. Um,
And I'm sure it's different for everyone.
it's different for everyone. It
Hmm.
really is.
Hmm.
I mean, because something. My say, for instance, my son could have said something to me this afternoon that I didn't even think about until this evening, and it triggered me into like a state of, why would he say something like that? What did I do? A
Hmm.
lot of name blaming and stuff like that, and um, I say name blaming, but I mean, blaming him for the way that I feel when I need to control my own emotions. What he said
Hmm.
may not have been condescending, but I took it as such. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
definitely, try to figure out what it is, why it is that you're in this particular state. There may not be a reason for it, but sometimes they are. Um, I can't really say for sure until I know,
Right.
the specific
And that could be
situation.
another
But
show. That could be another show. Just for writers specifically, or anybody in with their craft dealing with depression and having the will to want to do what they do. You know,
yeah,
yeah. But you
yeah,
specifically being a writer, that's something that you can do, Wendy. That's another part of your platform. Being a writer, there are a lot of writers out there who may be living with depression. And I'm supposed to get you onto your next meeting, and we are 2 minutes behind. But
oh,
you mentioned, you mentioned our men. You mentioned the men. Okay.
yes,
So your husband, your supporter, your rock, Mark. I gotta have Mark on then and speak from a man's perspective, to speak to the men dealing
yes.
living with depression. Yeah, so I'm going to contact Mark soon and have him on. It's That's really important because Mark deals with depression also, correct?
Yes, he at one point did. And we have to understand that men have so much on their shoulders.
Yes.
Whether they're worried about their spouses, they're worried about their kids, they're worried about Things going on in the outside world, especially when your child walks out that door. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, Health wise, thinking about their health. Um, and, and speaking more so um, for men of color, people of color, you go outside that door, you don't know whether you're coming back or not. That's a
Right.
lot of weight,
It's a lot
you
of
know,
weight.
that's a lot of weight to carry, not knowing whether I'm going to come home or my son's going to come home safely.
Unimaginable weight. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so, men, I don't know, people seem to think, no, 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 no. I'm going to say this in another way. Men seem to think that they're able to carry the weight on their shoulders without the help. And that's
Mm-mm.
not necessarily true. You know, don't feel like you can carry this load by yourself. And you can't think that we would think that you are weak or less of a man if you go seek help. You need, if you need the help, you need to say so.
Yeah.
You know, I I I I just think about some of the men that actually take their lives. Well, women too, but the men that take their lives because they feel as if they just can't go on anymore. Um, and it saddens me because, well, maybe if they went and got help or, went to seek help,
Right.
could that have changed anything?
Right.
But, that's something that we don't know because they're not here to tell
They're not
us.
there. Right.
And so we've got to be proactive to, making sure that our loved ones can come to us whenever they do have a problem, men and women.
Right. Right.
Don't deal with this behind closed doors. Don't deal with
Yeah.
this in silence. And I'll be the first one to tell you I did that.
Mm.
And it wasn't easy. And now that I'm older, I have that support. Back then I didn't. But
Mm.
that was generations ago. We're in a new day and age now where, you can actually go on National Suicide Hotline and talk to somebody
Right.
or chat with somebody. And, the technology is there.
Right.
And so, please don't ever feel like you're alone in this because you are not.
Mm-hmm.
I had wanted to see what someone had said on this, and
The last comment.
yes,
She says, I have, this is Dr. Winborn. I have counseled people with depression in my former occupation, and I remember them saying how lost and sad they felt. They experienced feeling better, and then a period of sadness happened again. Once again, thank you for telling us of your journey. So I believe in that. That's in response to when the triggers come. You mentioned
yes,
your son would say something and it'd be hours later and you would think, you know, why would he say that? But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Now I'm gonna tell you, with me, my mind is kind of slow. Um, every time I see this little meme thing about, I think it was Donald Duck sitting straight up in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it is like, hey, what does so and so say? What was it that they said earlier today? It pops into your mind at 3 o'clock in the
yeah,
morning
yeah, yeah.
when it didn't really hit you until then. But and yeah, I apologize, I have tears in my eyes. Um, but yeah, a lot of times people think that you can get rid of depression. Depression is really a disease that you can maintain, but you can't get rid of it.
Mhm.
I don't. I'm speaking from experience. I I can't say for sure medically. I'm not a medical expert, but I've dealt with this for so long. I personally feel like I won't be able to really get rid of it. Um, but again, I'm speaking for myself because I've had it for so
Mhm.
long.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I understand what she's saying. Um, that they're saying how uh, lost and sad they left.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how old the people were,
Mhm.
uh, but yeah, that's pretty sad.
Yeah. And thank you again, Wendy, because everyone was just thanking you again. Thank you all for tuning in, your comments. Uh, Robert Congress thanks you again, Sandra Winborn, and of course, is that your daughter, Alex?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yes. And thank you all for joining us. Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you so
Wendy.
much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
because this is a topic that really needed to be talked about. One thing I wanted to say before I go is that the movie itself will be shown this weekend. Excuse me, on Roku under the Steph Leela production channel. That's STEF dash LELIA Productions. That's my producer Stephanie Green's channel. The movie inside the short film Inside of Me will show on that particular channel on Roku. So if you're interested in, you want me to come back? If you're interested in watching the movie again, it will show this weekend. It'll be on the next 3 months or so. So if you're interested, please, please, please watch. You don't want me to go,
Okay.
Sandra? Oh, you're so sweet.
Dr. Winborn actually does on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays on her Facebook page a Are You Stuck segment at 9 o'clock every
Oh,
morning
okay.
Central Time. Yeah,
Okay.
so she's familiar with what you're talking about. As she said in her previous occupation, she counseled people with
Right.
depression. So, yes. So, Roku, do you know what time? Roku.
Actually, the way that it's set up, you can look at it at any time.
Okay,
I had to actually get a stick, a
okay.
Roku stick, because all of my everything in here is Samsung, but and Amazon.
A
Um,
fire stick. You mean a fire
yes,
stick?
yes, a
Okay.
Roku stick.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, some
Okay.
people already have the Roku uh
App.
TV and stuff like that. Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, I had to go get a Roku stick, and
Okay.
when you go on the chat on the her channel, she has videos up there. I think interviews and the movies and stuff like that. So you'll be able to see it at any time.
Okay. And it's staff.
Steph,
Lelia.
Steph, STEF.
Eflelia.
There's a dash in there, so it's Steph
Okay.
STEF dash
Dash
LELIA
LLA
Productions.
Productions. Okay.
Yes,
And of course, you'll put this on your page, right? So we
yes,
will know and be reminded. Yes, yes. So you can like author Wendy Shipman on Facebook. She's also on TikTok. She's probably wherever you are on social media, Instagram. So, yes, to find out where she is, like her on Facebook and follow her. And don't hesitate to send her a message, a Facebook message, contact her, purchase her book, Inside of Me, and on Roku. Um, she's going to put all of this on her page that we can actually watch. And
yes. Everything's on there. Yes.
everything's on there. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so much,
again for your
Sandra.
transparency, and we will be in touch and tell your supporter, your hubby, Mark, that I will be contacting him. Okay?
Okay.
All
He would
right.
love it.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. I
All
appreciate
right.
it. Thank you so
And
much.
thank you guys for joining us. And Wendy, you can go ahead and go to your, I got you late. I'm going to close out just thanking my sponsor, attorney Robert C. Allen, for his sponsorship of Candy Publishing. And good night, you all.